Hi, we are Raqs Media Collective. We're based in New Delhi. I'm Monica. This is Shubha, and that's Jipesh.
Hi. The primary education of the Auto Didact brings together images of books from which the titles appear to have been erased. It also brings together the shadowy image or the shadow of a person who seems to be working within stacks of books. That person could be a librarian, could be a janitor, could be a person of some kind who appears to be after hours. It's not as if they're, the ordinary inhabitants of a library, but they seem to be inhabiting the library in an after time. And we were curious of thinking about the idea of a community, which is one of the central kind of ideas that knits together the festival this time. And for us, the idea of community can also be thought of as a community of people who ask questions and learns together, and who are brought together by their curiosity. When you look at a library and you look at the stamps on the, when you open a library book and you've got all those stamps of dates of return, you always feel this kind of strange kinship between the people who have borrowed a book before you. And sometimes there's maybe even one person who's borrowed a book in 30 years, and you and that person then constitute a strange kind of unknowing community. And the primary education of the autodidact is someone who learns for themselves. He or she learns everything about the world by themselves. And in a sense, they form a strange kinship with all other people who take on the responsibility and the delight of knowing about the world by themselves.
It's been an interesting process thinking about where to show in the Copenhagen Art Festival, because it's a public art project and we wanted to think through the question of what public art meant. So finally, we've agreed that we're going to show primary education of the autodidact on the walls of a library, of a public library. And we're going to have another piece called The Robin Hood of Wisdom, which is a guerrilla flyer, if you can call it that, which will be placed in the library, but all over the city in lots of unexpected places for people to pick up and perhaps, be inspired by, to do action. We found it a very sort of liberating project in the sense that it's, if things are not as they're supposed to be, or as you have been told how they're supposed to be, you just go and invent new ones. And for us, it's this idea of invention is a productive one in the sense that for example, the idea of community that Copenhagen is raising, one has to create the things one wants to have in the world. And in that sense, the autodidact is a figure who, is potentially such a site, because he or she will figure things out in ways that perhaps have not been configured before, and that gives the idea of the future some possible potential all the time.
Well, this work is a response to communities in a sense that it is an offering to produce a new imagination of a coming community, and also to evoke a sense of community in the way knowledge has been formed for years, for centuries. So it is in one sense, open up the question of communities inherent in the idea of knowledge by which we today live with, and also the potentiality of producing new imaginary communities as to the real communities around the unknown and the making of new forms of knowledge and life.